My name is Riley. I'm 29 years old, a combat medic in the U.S. Army, and until recently, I thought I had a home to return to. Not just a house, a home. The kind that smells like warm bread and old furniture and sounds like familiar voices laughing over nothing. I left for deployment in Eastern Europe last year, not because I had to, but because it was my duty. Duty meant everything to me. I left behind everything I owned. My books, my guitar, my dog tags from basic, even the jacket my late grandfather gave me when I enlisted. Before I left, I stood in my childhood bedroom one last time. The posters were still on the walls. The window still creaked in the corner when it rained. My mom cried when I hugged her goodbye. My dad said, "Be safe, kid," like it was just another Tuesday. And my sister Tessa? She didn't even come downstairs. Said she had a thing. I should have known then, but I didn't. I boarded that plane with a duffel bag, a uniform, and the blind belief that when I returned, everything would still be waiting. That's what family does, right? They wait for you. They hold space for your absence. They protect your place at the table. I didn't hear much from them while I was gone. A few messages from Mom every other month. Mostly vague updates. Hope you're safe. Dad fixed the garage door. Tessa's still job hunting. Nothing about birthdays, holidays, nothing personal. I chalked it up to time zones. Everyone's busy. And maybe they just didn't want to worry me. Then came the day I got the call. Not from my family. From my old neighbor, Mr. Delgado. He found me through my military contact card, the one I gave him as a precaution before I deployed. "Riley," he said, his voice low. "I don't want to upset you, but I thought you should know." I braced myself. "You still think your stuff is in that house?" I swallowed. "Yeah. Why?" He hesitated. "They sold it. Garage sale, estate sale, Craigslist. Everything. All gone." I couldn't speak. "Even your medals," he added softly. "They sold your medals." My throat tightened. "Why would they do that?" He sighed. "Your mom said you weren't coming back. Said it was better to clear the space." I sat there in my tent, thousands of miles away, staring into the desert wind as if I could will the words away. I didn't cry. Not yet, but I knew in that moment something sacred had been broken. Not a thing, not a house, but trust. The kind you can't rebuild with an apology or a home-cooked meal. And right then, I made a silent vow. If they could sell my life while I was away, then I'd show them exactly what I came back to reclaim. The day I returned was not the day I told them I would. I flew in a week early. I needed time, not just to adjust to the time zone or the weather, but to the truth. I landed with one backpack, no suitcase, no souvenirs, just papers, my rank, and a folded copy of the Army's official accommodation letter. It named me in bold, Staff Sergeant Riley Cole, Distinguished Service Medal. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I stayed in a cheap motel near the edge of town. One of those places with flickering lights and bad coffee but no questions. I called no one, texted no one. I needed to see it with my own eyes. The next morning, I borrowed a neighbor's hoodie and ball cap and walked past my childhood house. And it hit me. The porch swing was gone. The garden I planted with Mom when I was 10 had been dug up. New chairs, new doormat, and a fresh coat of beige paint on the door that used to be bright blue. As I stood there, a stranger opened the front door holding a baby. She looked at me like I was lost. And I was. I turned away before she could ask who I was. Across the street, Mr. Delgado waved from his porch. I walked over. He didn't ask questions, just patted the seat beside him and handed me a lemonade like old times. We sat in silence for a few minutes. Then he said, "They moved out 6 weeks ago. Bought a condo downtown." I blinked. "What happened to my stuff?" He looked at me. "Serious. They told everyone you weren't coming back. Claimed you were staying overseas. Said you'd given up your things." "I never said that." "I know." "Did they sell the guitar? The one with your name carved in the neck?" He nodded slowly. "Yard sale. $10. I looked down at my boots. Same boots I wore the day I pulled a wounded soldier out of enemy fire. They still had dust from the base, still carried weight. I whispered, "Did they even tell Tessa?" Mr. Delgado's mouth twisted. "She was the one selling the boxes, said it was her idea, said she needed the money for rent." I clenched my fists. All this time, while I was stitching wounds, ducking gunfire, writing goodbye letters just in case. My family had erased me for convenience. I stood up. "Where are they now?" He scribbled an address on a napkin, then handed me a spare key. "To their old house?" "To your house," he said. "You paid the property taxes for 2 years while deployed. It's still in your name." I froze. "What?" "They never changed the deed. Thought you'd never check. But legally?" He smiled. "That house still belongs to you." I drove to the address Mr. Delgado gave me. It was a sterile, beige condo building with numbered mailboxes and the smell of chlorine from a shared pool. It didn't feel like home. It didn't even feel like them. They used to hate places like this. No yard, no privacy, no soul. But I guess when you've sold your soul, the setting doesn't matter. I stood in front of Unit 14B. I didn't knock at first. Just stood there, fists in my pockets, heart hammering like I was back in the field. Not from fear, but from the kind of betrayal you can't put into words. Finally, I knocked. Footsteps. Then the door creaked open. My mom stood there in leggings and an oversized t-shirt, hair up, holding a coffee mug that said, "World's Best Mom." For a second, her eyes lit up. "Riley?" Then the color drained from her face. You said you were coming home next week. I wanted to see what was left of my life." She opened the door wider, stepping aside. "Come in." I walked in. New couch, cheap wall art. Nothing from the old house. Nothing that smelled like memory. Dad sat at the table eating cereal. He looked up, startled. "Riley?" I nodded once. "Back early." He didn't get up, just muttered, "Welcome home," like it was an obligation. Then she appeared, Tessa. Wearing my old hoodie, the one with the army patch still on the sleeve. She paused, mid-step, didn't say a word, just stared. I took a breath. "So, where's my stuff?" Dad looked at Mom. Mom looked at Tessa. Tessa rolled her eyes. "You weren't using it." My jaw tightened. "I wasn't using it because I was deployed." "In a war zone?" Tessa crossed her arms. "You said you didn't know when you'd be back. We needed space." "You needed space?" I laughed once. "No, you needed money." Her face went red. "It was just stuff, Riley." "No, it was my life." Mom tried to interject. "You don't understand." "No, you don't," I snapped. "You sold my medals, my dog tags, Grandpa's jacket, my journals, my gear." Dad finally spoke. "We thought you weren't coming back." "You didn't even ask," Tessa scoffed. "You're being dramatic." I turned to her. "You wore my hoodie while selling the rest of me for gas money." Silence. Dead, suffocating silence. Then I dropped the paper on the table. The deed. The one with my name. "The house you abandoned? The one you ransacked?" Dad picked up the paper, eyes scanning. "You kept the deed?" "I paid the taxes while I was deployed. You didn't notice." Mom's voice cracked. "What are you saying?" I looked them all in the eyes. Calm, cold. "That house belongs to me." They stared at the deed like it was a death sentence. Like seeing my name in black ink made it real. Tessa grabbed the paper. "This can't be right. You're barely home." I took it back. "Doesn't matter. I'm the legal owner. And I never transferred it." Mom sat down slowly. "But we thought." "You thought wrong," I said. "I sent the property tax payments from my base every 6 months. The house was never in your name." Dad stood up, voice rising. "You're telling me we've been living in your house, thinking it was ours, and now you're just, what? Kicking us out." "I'm telling you," I said, "that I came home to nothing. You took everything from me." Tessa scoffed. "It was just stuff, Riley." I turned to her. "You sold my uniform, my medical kit. You sold my rank like it was junk at a flea market." No one cared about that old junk. That junk had blood on it. Lives saved. Letters from soldiers who made it home. She looked away. Mom wrung her hands. Okay, listen. We can fix this. We'll apologize. Maybe we can move back in. No. One word. Sharp, solid. I'm not here to clean up the mess. I'm here to reclaim what's mine. Dad's eyes narrowed. So what? You're throwing your own family onto the street? I walked to the door, paused. I gave you everything. My money, my trust, my silence. I turned slowly. You chose to sell my past without even asking. So now, I'm choosing my future. Without you. Mom's voice cracked. Riley, please. Don't. My voice was flat. You made your choices. I walked out and left the door open behind me. Let them see how it feels when something that used to belong to you gets taken away. When I got back to the motel, I sat on the bed and stared at the ceiling. It didn't feel good. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt necessary. A boundary drawn not in anger, but in survival. The next day, I called a lawyer. Told him to draft a formal eviction notice. Not to be cruel, to be clear. They had 30 days to vacate. No negotiation, no calls, no fake tears, just truth. They sold my story while I was still writing it. Now, I was flipping the final chapter. The war didn't break me. But coming home? That nearly did. The eviction notice was hand-delivered by the sheriff's office 3 days later. I made sure it was done legally, respectfully, but firmly. No drama. Just a signature and a seal. I didn't expect to hear from them. But Tessa texted me anyway. Are you serious? You're evicting us? You're unbelievable. No apology. No accountability. Just outrage that their free ride was over. I didn't reply. 2 hours later, another message. You said you fought for family. Guess that was a lie, too. I put my phone face down on the table. I wasn't fighting against them. I was finally fighting for myself. I moved into a short-term rental near my old neighborhood. Small, 2 bedrooms, nothing fancy. But it had a porch swing and a quiet yard. I slept with the window open for the first time in months. And every night, I walked by the house they once gutted. My house. Every time, I pictured my guitar in the living room corner, my journals in the top drawer, my old army photo on the mantle. Gone. 1 week after the notice, Dad showed up at my door, unannounced. I opened it without saying a word. He looked older than I remembered. Or maybe just smaller. I want to talk, he said. I stepped outside. You've got 5 minutes. He looked at the ground. I made a mistake. I didn't respond. He kept going. We didn't think you were coming back. We thought we were moving on. You didn't move on, I said. You moved over me. We thought you'd understand. I shook my head. No. You hoped I wouldn't find out. You hoped I'd disappear. His jaw clenched. You don't know what it's like. I don't. I stepped forward. I've held dying soldiers. I've written goodbye letters for people younger than Tessa. Don't lecture me about hardship. He backed off. For a second, I thought I saw regret. Then he asked, Is there anything we can do to fix this? I looked him in the eyes. You can leave the keys under the mat and make sure the walls are clean. He blinked. That's it? That's everything. He turned to leave, then paused. She said you changed. Tessa? He nodded. Said you came back cold. I took a deep breath. I didn't come back cold. I came back done. He didn't look back again. 30 days started ticking. Day by day. I didn't watch the clock. I watched the silence. And for the first time in years, it felt like peace. 30 days passed. No calls. No texts. No begging. Just quiet. Too quiet. On the 31st day, I drove to the house. My house. The one with fresh beige paint and no swing on the porch. I parked at the curb and sat there for a minute. Breathing. Preparing. Then I walked up the path with the spare key Mr. Delgado had given me. I paused at the door. The same door I used to run through barefoot with popsicles dripping down my arm. I unlocked it slowly and stepped inside. The house was empty. Not just of people, but of any soul it ever had. The carpet was stained, the walls scuffed. One cabinet door was hanging by a hinge. It felt like a carcass, like someone had taken everything and left the bones. In the living room, I found a single cardboard box labeled R. I opened it slowly. Inside was one photo of me in uniform, my dog tags, and a crumpled thank you note from my 6th grade teacher. That was it. They sold the rest. I sat on the floor and held the dog tags in my palm. Cool metal, familiar weight, the only part of me they didn't turn into profit. I should have been angry, but all I felt was grief. Not for the objects, for the years I wasted trying to earn love that came with price tags. I stood and walked through each room. Bedroom, empty closet, cracked mirror. Kitchen, a broken drawer, a dent in the fridge. Garage, nothing but an oil stain and a single screw on the floor. This was what they left me, a shell of a home. But it was mine. I took a deep breath and whispered to the empty air, "I'm not fixing this for them." That night, I called a contractor. I told him I didn't want anything fancy. Just clean. Simple. Fresh. The next day, I rented a moving van. Not for furniture. For space. I carried in new memories, one box at a time. Books I loved. Blankets that smelled like lavender. Photos of friends who felt more like family than blood ever did. And in the center of the living room, I placed the box labeled R. Because from now on, I wasn't hiding what they tried to erase, I was building over it. Not to forget, but to prove I made it. Without them. 3 months passed. The house was transformed. New floors. Fresh paint. A porch swing, just like the old one, but stronger. I kept the walls light, the furniture simple, the air warm. It wasn't the house I grew up in anymore. It was mine now. Every inch of it reclaimed. To celebrate, I hosted a small get-together. Nothing dramatic. Just a few friends from town, some local vets, Mr. Delgado, and a woman named Jo from the VA who always brought good wine and better stories. We grilled in the backyard under string lights. I hung myself. Laughter filled the space like insulation. At one point, someone asked, "So where's your family? They couldn't make it?" I smiled politely. They made other plans. No one pressed further. They didn't have to. I told Jo the truth later, just the bare bones. She didn't react with pity or shock. She just handed me a beer and said, "Sometimes the people who raise you aren't the people who grow you." That stuck with me. Later that night, while cleaning up, I saw a car drive slowly past the house. Black sedan, windows tinted. It didn't stop, just lingered at the corner, then kept going. Tessa's car. I knew it. I didn't chase it. Didn't wave. Just stood on my porch, barefoot, holding a tray of untouched cupcakes. She'd seen the lights. The people. The warmth. Maybe she thought it was for her. Maybe she hoped I'd invite her in. But she kept driving. And I let her. That night, I sat in the living room alone. Dog tags on the coffee table. Guitar propped in the corner. I picked it up, strummed 3 soft chords. The sound was off. Not because the strings were bad. Because it was a new guitar. The old one was gone forever. But I played anyway. Played through the ache. Played like I was writing my story in notes instead of words. A story that didn't begin with betrayal. And didn't end with vengeance. But with survival. With truth. With peace that didn't require permission. It was a Thursday. Late afternoon. The air was thick with the smell of rain. I had just finished sorting through a box of old letters I'd mailed home from deployment but never got back. Turns out Mom never kept them. She said it made her too anxious to read. So I found them in a thrift store 2 towns over. Still sealed. Marked Return to Sender. I was taping one to a journal page when the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. I peeked through the curtain. It was Tessa, standing on my porch like a ghost from a story I stopped telling. Hair in a braid. Holding a single grocery bag. I opened the door, slowly. She looked nervous. "Hey," she said softly. "Hi." I didn't think you'd answer. I almost didn't. She nodded. I brought cinnamon rolls, the kind you like. I used to like those. She blinked. The silence stretched. Can I come in? I looked behind me. The house was spotless, peaceful. I thought about the letter still on the table, about the medals she sold, the jacket she gave away for $50. No, I said. She blinked again. Her mouth parted like she was about to cry, but no tears came. Riley, I didn't come to fight. Then why are you here? I wanted to see it. The house. You saw it from the car the night of the party. Her eyes widened. You saw me. I see a lot now. I didn't know it meant that much to you, she whispered. I narrowed my eyes. You didn't ask. She looked down. I miss you. I paused. You miss having access. Not me. That's not true. You didn't just sell my things, Tessa. You told people I wasn't coming back. Like I was dead. Like I didn't matter. She swallowed hard. I panicked. Rent was due. Mom said. I don't care what Mom said. She froze. I took a step forward. I needed you to say something. To do something. She looked up. I'm sorry. I believed her. But it wasn't enough. Some things are too cracked to glue back together. I nodded slowly. Thanks for the cinnamon rolls. She extended the bag. I didn't take it. Leave them on the porch. Her hand trembled as she placed the bag down. Then she turned. Walked slowly to her car. No begging. No scenes. Just the sound of her footsteps on rain-slick wood. I watched her drive away. Then I picked up the bag, took it inside, and put it straight in the freezer. Not because I wanted to eat them, but because even burnt sugar has its place. And maybe someday, when the bitterness fades, I'll defrost one, just to remember how far I've come. 2 weeks later, I received an email from the Department of Defense. It was formal, crisp, full of acronyms and signatures. At the bottom was a gold emblem. I was being awarded the Bronze Star. For valor. For saving lives under fire. For not breaking when everything else did. The ceremony would be small. Closed to the public. Veterans. Officers. A few guests. Each service member was allowed to bring 2 people. I stared at the screen for a long time. I didn't write my parents. I didn't tell Tessa. Instead, I called Mr. Delgado. And I called Joe from the VA. They both said yes before I finished the sentence. The day of the ceremony, I wore my pressed uniform. Stood straighter than I had in months. They called my name, Staff Sergeant Riley Cole. I walked to the front, accepted the medal, and for a moment, as the weight of the ribbon settled around my neck, I felt the tears build. Not because I was proud, but because I remembered what it felt like to wonder if I mattered at all. I didn't look into the crowd. But after the event, Joe leaned in and whispered. They were outside. I frowned. Who? Your parents. And your sister. Standing by the fence. Watching. I turned slowly. Sure enough, across the courtyard, just beyond the security line. 3 familiar figures stood behind the gate. Mom's eyes were red. Dad's arms were crossed. Tessa was holding something. A photo, maybe. None of them spoke. None of them waved. Just watched. I didn't approach. Didn't break the moment for closure I didn't need. Instead, I turned back to Mr. Delgado, and we took a photo together under the ceremony banner. Later that night, I uploaded it to my private profile. Captioned it. Not all families are born. Some stand beside you by choice. No hashtags, no tags, just truth. At 2 a.m., a message appeared. From Tessa. No words, just the photo she had been holding. It was of us. A blurry shot from when we were kids, sitting on the porch swing, eating melted popsicles. For a moment, I almost felt something warm. Then I closed the message. Didn't respond. Not out of cruelty, out of peace. Because the girl in that photo was gone. And the woman wearing the bronze star? Prisker. She wasn't going back to the porch. She had built her own. It's been 6 months since I reclaimed the house. 3 since I earned the bronze star. 1 since I last heard from anyone in my family. The silence is no longer sharp. It's soft now. Like a blanket I didn't know I needed. Life has settled. Not perfect, not dramatic, just mine. I get up early. I make my coffee the way Grandpa taught me. Strong and black, no sugar. I sit on the porch swing with a worn notebook and let the morning decide whether I write or rest. Sometimes I still think about the things they sold. The jacket, the journals, the guitar. But they don't sting anymore. Not because I forgot. Because I forgave myself for missing people who never planned to stay. One morning, I got a letter in the mail, an official envelope with my name typed neatly across the front. Inside was a court notice. My parents had filed for early retirement assistance. They listed me as a financial contact. No explanation, no heads up, just expectation. I folded the letter in half and set it on the table. Then I opened my laptop. I contacted the retirement board, explained the situation, requested removal from all financial association. I was polite, professional, final. 2 days later, I received confirmation. I was no longer listed. That was the moment I realized something. They hadn't learned a thing. They still saw me as a fallback plan, as the soldier they didn't wait for, but now hoped would catch them mid-fall. So I made one last decision. I met with my lawyer, had the deed to the house formally transferred. Into a trust, the kind that passes only to people I name. Not blood, not obligation, but those who stood beside me. Mr. Delgado, Joe from the VA, a foundation for veterans who returned home to silence. That afternoon, I stood in the front yard, keys in one hand, title in the other, and I whispered, not to them, but to the girl who once boarded a plane thinking home would wait. You didn't lose your place. You outgrew theirs. Inside, my phone buzzed. A text from Tessa, no words. Just a link to a GoFundMe. Family, emergency, please help. I stared at it for a full minute, then deleted it. No anger, no guilt, just peace. Later that evening, I sat on the porch swing as the sun dipped low. The wind was light. The house behind me was quiet. And in my lap sat the same box marked R, still unopened. Still mine. Because the things they sold? Oh, I've already rebuilt them. Stronger, wiser, quieter. And the house they tried to erase me from? Oh, it stands tall now, owned by a war hero. Written in her name. Forever. What do you think about Riley's decision? Was she too harsh? Or was this the only way to truly protect herself? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt stories about family.